still my client's funding strategy. They got up to 123K in 0% business funding. And I'm going to show you exactly which banks that we went to. I'm going to show you their profile, everything that you need to know, and all relevant data points. So you could do the exact same thing, or you could work with me and I can do it for you. So let's get it. What's going on? It's Colin Brown here from Business Credit Unlimited, and I'm back. So let's get straight to it. Now, as we see here, we have a client. I've just went through, this is something that we build out custom for every single one of our clients. It's what we call our game plan, where we take all of their data, pretty much personal credit cards, business information. I don't have everything on here because obviously I don't want to show the client's info, because I will talk about like how much my clients got specifically. But when we go into like exactly which cars they got, I don't like matching it up to, because I like literally show clients names and everything. So I don't like matching it up to exactly every single thing they got going on and all that good stuff. So for these, I just don't say the client's name because of that, because we're going more into their information. But anyways, we set this up for each one of our clients, right? It's called a game plan, like I said. And on here, I'm going to show you all the relevant data points, exactly which banks we went to get 123K. Now, as we see here, when it comes to getting 0% funding, you will need to do a personal guarantee if you did not understand. So you need to have at least a 700 plus credit score. And this client's credit scores 788 with TransUnion, 791 with Experian, and 795 with Equifax. So they're well above that. And really, like at like a 700-ish, if you have like a 7, say you got a 701 credit score, it's probably because your credit history is short, you still have negative items, or your credit utilization is like, high, whatever high is to you. It could be above 15%. It's probably over like 30% if that's the only thing going on. So you really need to fix that first. And I always say 700 plus, because there's so many different variables. It's not a one size fits all. There's so many different variables that you could be approved for really anything, 0% funding, business lines of credit, business loans at a 700 plus score or like a 680 score. But typically speaking, to be safe, you really want to be at above 720, really. So when you have like a 780 plus, it really puts you in prime position for funding. Now, another really important factor or a data point is, when did you get your oldest personal credit card? Not your oldest account, but your oldest personal credit card. For this client, it was in 2010, which is well above what we typically look for. We like to see at least like a year and a half minimum, but you can get away with a lot less than that, like 3 to 6 months or something like that. Your oldest car is only 3 to 6 months, and you can get approved 100%, but you will have a lot more trouble getting funded for, like, if you go for multiple institutions, you're going to have trouble getting funded for sure. Every bank is not going to be cool with that. Like, they're going to be looking like, dang, you just got a personal credit card. Because when you go for business credit cards, the thing that they're looking at is your personal credit cards. All right, it's something called comparable credit. All right. Now, let's take a look here. 3/12/2010. So again, that's well above. At the time I'm recording this, that's what, 14 years. So that's great. All right. Not above 524. If you don't know what 524 is, don't worry about it, because if you work with me, you ain't really got to worry about it, because we've had clients above 524 that still get approved for over 100K in funding. But essentially, if you don't know, really quickly, it's the rule that is mainly an internal rule that Chase Bank has, to where if you have more than 5 personal credit cards in the last 24 months, they will start either automatically denying any application that you put in for them, especially for credit cards, or it's just a lot less likely of a chance that you will be approved. Now, the client is under 524. So highest credit limit is 17.7. So 17.7 is great. If I'm being picky, like if I'm building a client from scratch, I would want to see this like highest credit limit 30K plus. So it's not like it's like the absolute banger best that you possibly can have, but 17K is enough. You really want to have above a 5K limit on the personal side before you go for high limit funding. The way that the banks look at it, and I'm trying to tell you this because a lot of people hear me say this and I don't know, they just think I don't know what I'm talking about. They just think I'm saying it. They think they can get past it. I don't get it. But either way, if you have just like a $1,000 limit on the personal side, don't come in expecting 100K in funding. It's not going to happen. You're not going to get high enough limits from the banks. Okay, they're going to look at this information before they approve you. All right. Now, one thing to know here is the derogatory items. I'm going to touch back on that when I go over some specific data points about this client. All right. Total accounts 31, 29, and 31 with TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, respectfully. So, you really want to have at least 10, but this amount is fine. It's cool. Recent accounts open in the last 6 months. No. So that's really good too. Hard increase 3, 4, and 1. Actually, let me take this out too. I'm not going to show like each specific inquiry. Because like we get really deep. Like I delete a lot of the tabs in here because our game plan is a lot more detailed than this. And I don't know if I've shown like the exact increase before. If so, it's cool, but I just ain't gonna show the increase. Y'all can't do nothing with that information. Like nobody can, but I ain't gonna show it anyways. Hard increase, so 3, 4, and 1 with TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. When they came to us, this is actually like 2 of those inquiries are from new approvals that we're in the process of getting deleted now, because for our clients, we delete all inquiries that we can when they first get started and after funding. So the inquiries were pretty low. Inquiries were good. Just know that once you get above like 4 or so applying for funding, you could get denied or get lower limits. So that's what you want to keep in mind there when it comes to your inquiries, hard inquiries. Now, just a few notes. So this client lives in California. This client has actually been in business for 12 years. So you may be thinking, I ain't in business 12 years. I'm a startup, blah, blah, blah. Look, I get it. But I'm just showing you what this client's data points were. So that way you can kind of compare and contrast. But maybe you live in California. Maybe you've been in business 5, 7, 10 years. And your profile is looking similar. Then you can expect this amount of results, right? It's going to be typical for you. Another thing, originally this client had utilization around 30%, and we had to hide their utilization. What does that mean? Basically, we use some cash to pay down on the cards, so that way their utilization would be lower, and we can go for high limit funding. If your utilization is around 30%, you should not, especially if your total amount of credit you got available is like 100K. You had 30% utilization. That means you had like 30K out of 100K on your personal credit cards. Don't apply for funding. You're going to just waste your time because you're going to get denied or get lower limits all day, every day. Okay. Because the bank's looking at it like, all right, if you can't pay this down, why should I give you more money if you're not handling what you got? Right. So we had to do some work with that. All right. We had to do some work with that. Now, this client also generates 6 figures plus in revenue for their business. So this is not a startup. This is not a business that's not generating any money in their business, anything like that. So that is something to keep in mind. And I'm adding this in because, again, a lot of times when you see results, all right, you see results like somebody like me post them. Could be somebody else. You're seeing 50K limits, 75K limits, 25K limits, whatever the case. You never really know what's going on with that client. You don't know what type of relationship they have. You don't know how long they've been in business, things like that. All of these things matter greatly. Okay? Don't think you just about to get money from the banks just because you exist, just because you started an LLC. That's not how it works. Don't let people lie to you and tell you that. Now, I'm not saying all at the same time. I'm not saying you have to have these things going on to get funded. I'm just saying that it does help. And we've gotten clients with a brand new business funded 100K plus. So it's possible even without having this going on, but this did help the client's results 100%. All right. I'm not going to act like it's just not a factor. That's why I'm mentioning it right now. I have to be transparent and tell you this is what the client had going on. Now, the client has late payments. This is what I said I was going to go into. Has late payments on actually two different, it says 3 on here, but I saw 2 different credit cards that the client had late payments with. So why am I getting at that? The thing here is these things more than likely overrided that, because say if this client is a startup, right? Not generate any money in their business and they just incorporated the LLC like a month ago and you got late payments, now you kind of thrown out of whack, especially if the profile isn't looking as good. You're probably not going to get funded, right? Or if you do, your results are not going to be like this. You probably should be aiming more for like a 25 to 50K ish versus like 100K plus 150, 250, to get that amount. What I'm trying to get at, guys, is that based on what you bring it to the table, it's going to determine how much in funding that you get. There's no such thing as every single person getting 250K in funding, no matter what position that you in. Even if you have like a great personal profile, that still doesn't mean you're going to get 250. There's still other things that's required. So even me, when I advertise about 250K, I always say up to 250K. I never say everyone's going to get 250K, because 250K for a qualified client is easy work. It's not that difficult, at least for us. Like, that's nothing. We've had clients exceed well above that. However, if you aren't qualified, it's going to be a tough battle. It's going to be a hard road. But I can get almost any client that's is like barely qualified 50K at least. Like 50K is not a big deal to me at all. Like, that's nothing. That's child's play to me at this point. That's normally not hard, but we talking about like 100, 125, 150, 250, 200. Yeah, you got to have certain stuff going on. That's where I'm getting at, you guys. Now, these late payments, again, normally you have a late payment on a credit card because you're going for 0% business credit cards. Normally not going to fare too well for you. It could, but it also depends. So with these late payments, if you have a late payment that's like 3+ years old, it's only going to stay on your report for 7 years. So it's going to be somewhere in between like 3 to 6 years plus, right? If you have a late payment that's that old, then it's a good chance like that it won't affect your odds as much, especially if you got everything else going on. But if you don't expect to have a late payment you just got 3 months ago, and then, you go to your favorite funding person to help you. And I don't know, some of these guys is not even being transparent with y'all, to be real. I talk to a lot of people and they telling me that people are just saying this, it doesn't matter, but it does. But just don't expect to be able to just, haul off with a startup business. Your credit score is okay. It's like 705 or something. You got a startup business and you got late payments. Just don't expect 250K in funding. It's not going to happen. All right, it's just not going to happen. Just get over it. It's not going to happen. Work on your stuff first, then come back and go for funding. All right, because you're using this funding to grow your business anyways. If it's all about growing your business, then you should be growing your business without it. You don't, like, funding is supposed to enhance what you're doing. All right. Or if you're a startup, and there's a lot of industries where you need money to make money, like in trucking, you have no truck, then it's going to be hard to make money, right? Obviously. So not every single industry that applies to, but there could be, even with that, there's something you could be doing to advance your business further, even if you don't have the funding for it. And you need to focus on that if you still have things that you need to work on, like late payments. Go to somebody, start working on them. Okay. Don't ask like how long it's going to take, all that. Just start doing it, because the sooner you get started, the better. Right. And a lot of you guys has already got that. You ain't got derogatories and all that. I'm kind of preaching to the choir right now, and this don't apply to you, but I'm just trying to cover different ranges because this is a YouTube video. I don't know exactly what your situation is, but I'm just trying to cover all bases here, right? So yeah, if you got that stuff going on, work on that first. Don't worry about how long it's going to take and all that as much as it is you taking action to get it off, right? And I'm not saying that who you work with should not have some type of expectation or it's not like you don't care at all, but if you just wait around because, the person said it might take 3 to 6 months, I don't know about it. Well, you're going to look up and that time is going to pass by regardless. Now you haven't worked on the late payments or the collection or the charge off or the bankruptcy or whatever it is, right? So now let's go to the client's personal credit cards. Now the client, again, like I said, they originally started out with like 30% utilization. They got that down. Now, what I see from this, what do you make from all this information, right? The client has multiple personal credit cards. One thing that stands out to me is that the client doesn't really have too many major personal credit cards from major institutions. That's one thing that I personally like to see with a client because it's more likely that if you already have relationships with a lot of the major banks, it's going to make it easier to get more funding from some of the other major institutions once you go to the business side. So say if this looked like Bank of America, Chase, American Express, even Discover, even though we can't really use that on the business side. I don't know, a U.S. Bank, Wells Fargo, if that's what this client has, Wells Fargo. But say if that, and the client has Bank of America too, but I'm just saying if that was like most of what the client's cards were, then that would be even more ideal than this. But obviously you don't need all of that. I'm just kind of being nitpicky and just saying, if this is you, like you don't have all that going on, then you still could be funded. You still could be funded for sure. And the client has 89K in personal credit cards. This helps out a lot too. This is key. This is key. This is key. This is key. If you do not have, like 20K at least in personal credit cards, if you added all your limits together, don't go in thinking you about to get 200, 250K. It's probably not going to happen, right? Like and when I say not going to happen, not ever, just meaning like no time soon. Like it's not going to happen in like, the next 2-3 months, more than likely. Okay. And it's possible, but you really have to have other stuff going on. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Now, let's go to the banks. Yeah, let's get down to it. I've been talking through a lot. Let's just get straight down to it. And the client did have an American Express Platinum and Gold card prior to working with us. But now let's go into the banks. Dun. Hope y'all not disappointed because this client got 123K, which is 2 banks. That's it. 3 business credit cards, 2 banks. I always tell you guys, like, you do not need, and this is why I made a video. Like, I had some people like saying stuff here and there, but it's all good. This is why I said the credit union, when I made the video about not going for credit unions in 2025, it's because when you know how to maximize your options, you don't have to know all these crazy banks. You don't have to look up all of these banks and try to find all these smaller banks and all of that. If you know how to maximize what you have. Now, I'm not saying that it never applies for credit unions, by the way. I'm just saying that if you have not fully explored a lot of the major institutions, which 9 times out of 10, you probably haven't, right? Because if you did, you might have enough funding already, especially if you maximize it. If you're in that position where you've already went to Chase, like all of the major guys, then yeah, go for credit unions and smaller banks. But most of y'all really just don't need that. But yeah, 123, the client got 100K just from Chase. Okay. A 75K approval and a 25K approval. All right. And the client got 23K just from US Bank. All right. So that leaves us at 123K just from 2 banks, 3 business credit cards. That's it. Okay. We actually have some other funding that the client is going to go after. But I mean, other than that, that's it. I hate to disappoint you if you thought I was about to just bust out like these secret banks and these like 10 of banks and banks you never heard of and stuff like that. You probably heard of US Bank. You probably heard of Chase. That's the banks that we went to. We work with our business relationship managers, process the application. Client got through 123K in like, oh my gosh, it was really no time. We really more waiting for things to report and update. But other than that, like it's pretty simple. So that's it. That was my client strategy. That's how we get it done. We go for higher limits in the least amount of banks possible. So that way you don't have as much to juggle with. Like I always say, this is cool. Having all this is fine. This is cool. Hold on. I don't know if y'all can see me because the picture is a little smaller. Like, having all this is cool. Having all these banks is cool. However, if you could do it with way less, then why not? But that's pretty much it. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe because the funding videos will continue all the way through, but especially in 2025. If you have any questions about this funding strategy, be sure to let me know in the comments and let's keep it going. That is pretty much it. Until next time. Peace.